Hey there, members. If you're Tier 1, I address you as embers in the forge. You are the ones who keep the fire going and leave a soft glow for others to find the channel, and I thank you. And it may be that I've released this video into the wild for 24 hours before it goes into the member area, and if you are listening, watching during that 24 hours, I welcome you as well. If you would like to see the other videos in this series on the Wilhelm Reach, consider becoming a member. This series on the Wilhelm Reach exists because this has been sitting on my shelf, and I wanted to put it to good use and share it with others, but I also consider this one of the best setting books in all the realms, and I'm using it as a model for my own setting, the Hexcrawl of Horror. Currently, there are 4 issues of my zine, Crit Happens, that will help you build out your own Hexcrawl of Horror with system-agnostic factions like the Witches of the Blackened Earth, the Corrupted, and my latest zine about creating survivor groups. There will be a link in the description if you're interested. All right, let's get on to the good stuff. Wilhelm Reach and the area called Termish. There are 5 areas in total, and those videos will be put out throughout the year, so stay tuned. If you are interested in the Wilhelm Reach setting, I'll put a link in the description. Here's a brief overview of Termish, and then we'll cover its politics, customs, festivals, cities, and geography. Many folk refer to the hordes of Termish when talking about large numbers of people. Termish certainly has a lot of people, both at home and abroad. There are a lot of mercenary companies that call Termish home, but the real business of Termish is business. The government of Termish celebrates on the economy and its self-defense. It hasn't waged war in hundreds of years. Alagon was the first city established in the Reach around 37 DR. Alagon quickly evolved into a major trading center on the Inner Sea. Long before there was a nation of Termish, Alagon stood on the shores of the Sea of Fallen Stars. It wasn't until 132 DR when Dempster Termish declared himself the mayor of Alagon, and the nation of Termish began to take shape. Dempster commanded a large force of mercenaries whose services he sold to the highest bidder. Thus, when he declared himself mayor, his forces were quite pre-prepared for the brief civil war that erupted. By 145 DR, Dempster Termish had taken control of the smaller cities and villages in Alagon. From the 20-year war between Termish and the dwarvish Iron Fang clan to the Blue Dragon, Anaglathos, and the Time of the Worm, it is clear that Termish is as tough as the adventures it produces. The current ruler of Termish is Lord Herengar. He is a tall man in his early 30s, broad-shouldered and willful. He's a very likable sort, but most successful politicians are. He is the leader of the Assembly of Stars and once and still leader of the Call of Arms mercenaries. He allows the city to govern themselves while he focuses on national issues. And now for some of the customs of Termish. It is customary that male merchants have square beards, and the armor of warriors and mercenaries have intricate patterns and occasionally gems. If you are visiting someone's home, bring an exotic dish. If you wish to gain favor with those in Termish, try burying some of your treasure called seeding the ground. It means that you are wishing prosperity to Termish and its surrounding cities. And lastly, there's a day called Chase the Sun, where 1 out of every 9 days, participants pursue personal interests and hobbies, like making kites or practicing your spells. Some of the festivals of Termish include Feast of the Moon, or Festival of Lovers, as it's called. It's basically Valentine's Day, and I mentioned this in an earlier video, but this is the biggest day for the cult of Malar, to cut down lovers for favor. There's also the Reign of Misrule. It's kind of a soft purge where, let's say, a paladin lays down their oaths for barroom brawls or monks break their vow of silence. It's kind of like a do-what-you-want day or a hall pass day. You get to break out of the norms without consequence. I'm going to lightly touch on Termish's cities because there are 9 of them and focus on the adventure hook of each city. The 9 cities are Alagon, Iron Cloak, Morningstar Hollows, Ravelar's Cloak, Gildenglade, Centaur Bridge, Nonthal, Jathrin's Jump, and Zorhun. Okay, let's go ahead and start with Alagon. There's a Lich Queen right there in the first 3 words. A Lich Queen lives below the city among the ruins, and kids occasionally go missing in the ruins. Now, it doesn't necessarily say that the Lich Queen is the one taking them. There are possibly some other monsters down there, but this adventure writes itself. A kid goes missing. The adventurers must go down into the ruins, and maybe they discover that there just so happens to be a Lich Queen there, and they may or may not encounter them the first time they go down, but eventually they see more and more signs, and that could lead to a whole story arc where they eventually encounter the Lich Queen and maybe get into a final battle. Ironcloak, once a city, now in ruins because the Emerald Conclave decided that Lord Ironcloak was cutting too many trees down and caused earth elementals to destroy Ironcloak. The Emerald Conclave is a terrifying, powerful group of druids. Watch out for them. Morningstar Hollows, once a village, now flooded, has become a bog inhabited by lizardmen. Now, lizardmen do not have to be inherently evil. They're fishermen. They could just be fishing and just being, lizardmen, just living their lives. It's perfectly fine. Unless, of course, the Emerald Conclave gets involved, and then there might be trouble. But yes, I think every setting is better with lizardmen in it. Ravelar's Cloak. It's a rough and tumble town, which I am thinking is kind of Western, like at the very beginning of kind of Western days where there's very little law and order. And to make it almost kind of a weird West type of setting, there's a flying helm infused with the souls of the dead it has consumed. That's not scary at all, is it? So you have both the trouble of the town and a flying helm consuming souls. It's a great opportunity for PCs to get in there and discover all kinds of trouble, and maybe they bring some law and order to the city if they don't get their souls sucked out first. Gildenglade. Elves, half-elves, and dwarves live in harmony, but have a crimson death spirit devouring greedy adventurers. First of all, I love that elves, half-elves, and dwarves are living in harmony. Nobody's trying to oust anybody. Nobody's fighting in there. There is no contentiousness. It's perfectly fine if a community can get along together. Look at that. D&D bringing us together. Centaur Bridge. Stone unoccupied houses and rumors of a vanishing and reappearing mansion. And as I read this, there underneath the mansion is a vault of some kind. And of course, the PCs would have to figure out, when does the mansion appear? How do you then get into the mansion? And then how do you get down into the vault? So I see this as a very multi-layered type of encounter. All I have to tell them is there's a rumor that a mansion sometimes appears around this time. And then they have to figure out how to get in there. How long does that last? What if they go in and the mansion disappears? Where does it go? It's all good fodder for a great adventure. Nonthal. City with a magical hold built by a wizard that did not want to be bothered. And the path to that hold that the wizard created requires 13 passwords, or bad things will happen. So if you can imagine a path to the hold, and anybody that gets on that path who does not have the passwords, you could tell your players, suddenly you hear an explosion in the distance, or suddenly you see lightning strike down on the path and there's a black spot. I mean, you could literally see like dozens of people trying this, and it looks like the Hunger Games where people are just flying everywhere. And this may or may not inspire the players to go look for the passwords, but it sure would be fun. Jathrin's Jump, a shady town frequented by smugglers where you can find just about anything, including stone golems, which may or may not contain treasure. Zorhun, populated by mostly non-human craftsmen and merchants with an unusually high birth rate. So maybe don't go out and sleep with the tavern wenches in this town, because there's a lot of babies happening there, which would make for an interesting plot hook. Hey, go to this town and find out why the birth rate is so high. And maybe there's babies like everywhere. There's just more babies than you can count. And now there's a stone giant that's coming and trying to destroy the city. And your team has to gather up all the babies. Kind of like in the Flash movie where the Flash had to catch all those babies come out of the hospital windows there. That was wild, but having your characters run around and pick up babies, I think that'd be a lot of fun. So let's go ahead and cover geography now, these kind of bigger expanses and some plot hooks that go along with them. The mountains of Alorium. There's an active volcano there, Iron Fang dwarves are there, and the Duergar are there as well. So PCs could go into the mountains. Maybe they're there to help the Iron Fang dwarves, or maybe something's happened to the Iron Fang dwarves and PCs have to go in there and find them in the mines. Something's going on in the mines, and they discover the Duergar, and they have something to do maybe with the active volcano. The Osron Mountains. There are dragons, there are orcs, there are goblins, and kobolds. All the elements for territory battles, for resources. PCs could go in there to try to broker a peace treaty. They could go in there and be hired by the kobolds to take out the goblins. Maybe the orcs, goblins, and kobolds hire you to deal with the dragons. Lots of options here. The Orbreck. 2 words, mountain giants. It's all you need for an adventure. Ooh, these could be the mountain giants that attacked that little village filled with babies. The Afron Mountains. There's a mysterious volcano there, and guess what? It's controlled by who? The Emerald Enclave. I'm going to say it again. The Emerald Enclave are the villains of the Vilhan Reach. Beware of them. Lilith Pass. And within this path, there's something called the South Sands Games. It's like reenactments, but deadlier. Armies, large and small, compete for pride, honor, and treasure. And that's it. That is Termish from the Vilhan Reach. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget, there are several other Vilhan Reach videos in the membership area, and I'll put the playlist there on your screen. Also, the link to the Vilhan Reach setting is in the description, and you can go get it and explore it for yourself. Thank you once again for being a member if you are a member, and thank you for those that are watching during the time that this video is out in the wild. I hope it whets your appetite for more, and I'll see you in the members area. We'll see you guys in the next video.